to let ourselves drop into the fact that everything we love has worked itself into a level of complexity that isn't sustainable, and that many times we feel afraid. And that we feel afraid even right now. And that being fully embodied and present to one another, if we're to really have an intimate and fully engaged and vulnerable and transparent conversation, the fact that we're a little freaked out inside, kind of almost just needs to be there explicit instead of implicit. We kind of know that. We know that we've been working that through. But what we've done, and maybe blurred the lines of, is really pretty profound. And I think if we unpack it, we find inside that a wonderful secret, which is we made a choice. Just as it's sometimes said, optimism is a moral imperative. We've felt into this, we've felt into our fear, and we've essentially said, yeah, I'm scared, but I'm moving forward. And there's a lot of positive potential here, and I'm betting the farm on yes. And in doing that, there's a decision about what you're made of. During the Second World War, intellectuals in Europe, in the 50s, when I was a kid, first getting educated, we found out what people were made of. Bonhoeffer was a hero. Heidegger was, profound, but a kind of a snake. We found out what the intellectuals really were made of by how they behaved. In the time ahead, we may find out what we're made of by how much we're able to walk the talk of this yes that we're embodying right now in the whole nature of the exercise that we're engaging. Now, what I keep encountering is that the frame of my mind, of media, of the way we tell our stories, skews so profoundly to the negative. This material that Tom presented from Rick Hansen on taking in the good, implicit in that is the fact that our neurological mapping of our past experience tends to exaggerate threats and negative experience, tends to underrepresent our positive experience. And what we don't see is this incredible reservoir of potential heroism in every human heart. That we and our red state brethren, the whole matrix of the world, and certainly of America, is riven through, the diamonds on the soles of our shoes as we look at these tests ahead and we wonder what hidden resources are going to come to bear to help us through this time. The hidden resource that's most profound is spiritual. And it's something that we have not just an opportunity, but an obligation and a celebratory opportunity to rediscover in a new way. The wonderful secret is that stripped of all the things that immunize us from each other, we get each other. The wonderful secret is that made uncomfortable, we're still able to smile. That it's not just Haitians and poor Africans who can be on the edge of starvation and still be able to dance and smile broadly with fully integrated bodies. We can do that too. That the living reality of this mystery of existence is actually a power source that we're already plugged into. That underused circuitry and conductivity into us is exactly what we will be called upon to draw on and activate and live on the basis of. We are, as we engage this process, there's a sign I used to have on my desk. Relax, nothing is under control. And it really kind of says it. It's in this creative moment in which, and it's a little like all of you know, many of you you find yourselves in positions where you're on. Just like I'm speaking right now, you speak to groups, or you have key coaching or difficult conversations where you kind of have to perform. Moments where a lot is on the line. And isn't it your constant discovery that the things you're trying to do right, or imagining, or prefiguring, or planning, or strategizing, the whole frame of what you're going to do is sort of less alive than when you're in the moment and you just show up. It's in the showing up that magic happens. Well, we've been able to buffer ourselves so that we don't have to show up as much. That's what part of the nature of our privileged circumstance is. Well, if that's taken away, what's going to happen? We've been practicing showing up. A different kind of community is going to come forward. Now, I'm identified with all of it, not just the universal prior unity of humanity and the mystery of existence. I'm also identified with me and my loved ones and my region and all kinds of particular things which might be threatened and about which I don't have any security. I think that part of what I've had to reckon with in all of this is, particularly when I was writing my book, I had to look squarely. I did an exercise. Between 2002 and 2004, I wrote a manuscript I still haven't published, this thing called The Terrible Truth and the Wonderful Secret. And luckily, I shared that with Tom and his responses to that, and have been a big part of a whole series of conversations, which have resulted in many things, including indirectly this weekend. And part of the confrontation I was involved in then was just putting my eyeballs in a vise and looking at all the things I didn't want to look at, all the things I wanted to avert my gaze from, all the scary shit, the terrible truth. And I realized that I was involved in a psychological process of denial that made it impossible for me to have a full engagement, that I had to kind of go through an ordeal in that process of really facing up to the fact that in my lifetime, we might pass some horrible point of no return that would result in some kind of evolutionary regression or a new dark age or the at worst possible species extinction. That there was a lot of chips pushed to the center of the table, and systems were really unstable, and potentials were unknowable, and it scared the shit out of me. It was really hard for me to stay in my body and in my soul and really look unbuffered at all of that. But what it catalyzed for me was a moment in which I realized, well, wait. All I really need to ask myself is an essential question. If that's the case, in my lifetime, I can do the work of being life while life is alive and helping this human experiment, this flower, bloom a little more before its inevitable wilting. If I can just, through my efforts, help that bloom, get a few more pixels of definition, or a little bit more full before it goes. If I can be this evolutionary experiment, alive and committed, and being the yes that it inherently is, just a little bit more fully, is that enough to go on? Can I get out of bed? Can I have a spring in my step? Can I have a gleam in my eye? Can I be up for this without knowing I have a good shot at winning? Deprived of that kind of comfortable security, do I have do I have the spiritual courage to meet that unknownness? And I found a yes to that, and that yes has been almost like a cornucopia. It just doesn't stop giving. My willingness to be a yes to that, to just be the showing up in the I don't know of a wild ride, it really has turned me on. And one of the things that it has opened me up to is the realization, Well, what is this life anyway? We just don't know. This is an awesome, wild and woolly mystery, conscious and multidimensional, inspiring, terrifying, wild. What is it that what is it that makes it meaningful? What is it that makes a human life have value? You know, we happen to have been given human body minds in a time when so many of these huge trajectories are in these momentous convergences on singularities and critical collisions and punctuations of transformation where a new human might arise. That kind of stuff. We get to live then. Our lives may be relevant to something of evolutionary significance. You know, on a 13.7 billion year scale, in my, 7, I have a way to be involved at a time when evolution is speeded up so much that it's cultural and you see it happening in your own lifetime. And I'm talking with people who are thought leaders at this level, and we're engaging these things in a heartfelt and raw way, and none of us knowing the answer. We get to engage at this level. If the measure of a human life is relevance and meaning, we've hit the friggin' jackpot. We may die trying, we may grieve, we may bleed, we may be brokenhearted, but we can go for it. Now that is a wonderful secret. That gives me what I need to do my little piece of this amazing woven tapestry. I hope you feel that too. So that's my gift.